There are moments when heaven feels quiet, when your prayers rise but the sky gives no answer, when you wait and wait but nothing seems to change. You start to wonder if God is listening at all, if maybe you've been forgotten in the noise of the world. But silence doesn't mean absence, and unanswered doesn't mean unheard. Sometimes the quiet seasons are where God speaks the loudest. We want a God who always explains, but he's a God who often whispers. He spoke to Elijah not through the wind, not through the fire, but through a gentle whisper, a voice so soft it could only be heard by a heart that stopped fighting to listen. That's how God moves. He hides revelation inside silence and miracles inside waiting. The silence of God isn't a punishment, it's an invitation to trust what you cannot hear, because his presence is still there, even when his voice isn't. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." But we live in a world that fears silence, a world that wants noise, movement, and proof. Yet God builds faith in stillness. He strengthens patience where nothing seems to move. Because faith isn't proven when the mountain moves, it's proven when you stand before the mountain and believe it will. Remember Lazarus? When Jesus heard that his friend was dying, he didn't run immediately. He waited. He allowed silence to stretch, so that when he finally spoke, his word carried resurrection. If he had arrived early, there would have been healing. But because he waited, there was a miracle. That's what divine silence does. It turns ordinary hope into supernatural faith. Sometimes God delays so that your testimony won't sound like coincidence. He waits until every human possibility dies, so when the answer comes, no one can take credit but him. The silence is not rejection, it's preparation. He's aligning people, shaping hearts, and setting the stage for something you couldn't imagine. Think of Joseph in the prison, forgotten by everyone who promised to help him. Years passed in silence, but in one moment, that same silence broke open the door to Pharaoh's palace. Think of David, anointed as king but sent back to the fields to wait. His silent years weren't wasted, they were training. And even Jesus, the Son of God, faced the silence of the Father in Gethsemane and on the cross. Yet that silence wasn't defeat, it was the sound of redemption being written. So if heaven feels quiet, don't lose heart. It might not be the end of your story. It might be the part where your roots grow deeper. The tree doesn't grow in the storm. It grows in the stillness between rains. And your faith doesn't grow in the noise. It grows when you learn to wait without giving up. Sometimes silence is the soil where strength is planted. Maybe you've prayed for a door to open, and all you've heard is silence. Maybe you've asked for healing, for guidance, for change, and the only reply has been time. You've cried, and heaven seems still. But friend, even in the quiet, he's working. While you're waiting for the answer is already being shaped. While you're asking for direction, he's preparing the path you'll walk on. And while you're questioning his timing, he's making sure that everything aligns perfectly when it comes. God's silence is never empty. It's full of purpose, even when you can't see it. He's not ignoring you. He's teaching you to depend on something deeper than feelings, because real faith isn't hearing his voice, it's trusting his heart. It's believing that even when he says nothing, he's still speaking through the way he holds your life together. His silence doesn't mean, "I don't care." It means, "I'm still in control." There's beauty in not knowing, because when you don't know, you lean on him. When you can't see, you follow by faith. When you can't feel him, you remember his promises. And that's where intimacy grows, not in answers, but in trust. In the silence, you begin to see that his presence isn't measured by sound, but by peace. And sometimes, peace is the loudest voice of all. Look back for a moment. Every season where God was quiet led you somewhere stronger. The job you didn't get saved you from what would have destroyed you. The relationship that ended made room for healing. The door that stayed closed wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You didn't lose control, he took control, and now you can see it. Every silent night carried a hidden promise. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." It doesn't say, "Be still and I will explain." It says, "Be still and know." Because knowing who he is will always be greater than understanding what he does. You may not know the why, but you can trust the who, and that is enough. So if you find yourself in a quiet season, don't rush to fill it with noise. Let the silence shape you. Let it purify your motives, deepen your roots, and refine your vision. Because when God breaks that silence, you'll realize he never left. He was just preparing the weight of the answer. And you'll look back and say, if he had spoken sooner, I wouldn't have been ready. Hold on to hope. Even if all you hear is silence, it's not over. The same God who spoke galaxies into existence can speak one word and change your life forever. But he also knows the power of waiting. He's not late. He's not ignoring you. He's building your strength for the season that's coming. When God seems silent, stay faithful. When heaven feels still, stay close. When the answers don't come, keep praying, because one day the silence will break, and you'll realize he was speaking all along, not through words, but through the peace that carried you. If this message spoke to your heart, write in the comments, "Even in silence, I trust him," because sometimes the loudest miracles are born in the quietest prayers. And even when you can't hear him, he's still there, working, waiting, loving and whispering, "Be still, I am with you."